Good morning, gentlemen. All right, welcome to another Thursday Bloodhound workshop. And I lost my mouse. There we go. All right. Um, yeah, so for today, um, I do have two emailed in questions to address today and get the workshop started. And yeah, and let me finish actually taking a look to see the names in the room, and actually I do believe I recognize all the names in the room. All right, so I won't ask about the workshop introduction this time. So um, let's see, one other thing to note before getting started is there actually is an update here for Blackbird and Raven here. So just to note, on the changelog page here, yeah, there was an update, yeah, for Raven and Blackbird to fix the trade flags not being visible when dragging the flags to a new price. So when you're changing the price of those order flags there, right, the flags would not visibly show on the chart as you're moving them, dragging them. So that takes care of that. Another unfortunate NinjaTrader change there. So yeah, all right. So there's that, and of course, you don't have to go to the changelog to get that. You can just go to the downloads page here, right? The download installers page, right there, and skip down to step 2 there, and there you can see right there, there's the new version shows up right there. So all right, so we got that out of the way. Next, I'm going to keep this up for tomorrow's Blackbird workshop as well. All right, and let's see, let me take that out, clear that out, and all right, back to the workshops page. Okay, so let's get started here with our first emailed in question from Ian, and I see Ian's in the room. All right. And let's see, which is it? Yep, this one. All right. So this is pretty straightforward. Yeah, and simple system here to build. This won't take too much time. So it's a two-parter. So we have the Bloodhound portion, looking for 3 consecutive closes on one side of a moving average there, right? And then tomorrow we'll build out the Blackbird portion here for tomorrow. So, right. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Just looking for 3 closes, in a row, on on one side or the other of a moving average there. And one key difference here for this system is number 5 here. So essentially, yeah, if once the trade is closed out, flattened out, then reopen another trade. So I guess, for example, here, like this strong down move, right? Boom, all these closes, right? Maybe the profit targets are hit around here and then open the trade again, right? So that's kind of a key difference here is the signals. So when the core condition occurs, right, we're just going to keep those Bloodhound signals. So we're not going to clean them up using the signal blocker. So we're just going to show all the time, show when this condition happens. So that way, trades can be reopened again and again and again. So, all right. And then we do have an exit signal here, right? And we'll build out or show how to kind of adjust this exit condition here a little bit here. So instead of maybe just one bar, so instead of maybe just one bar on the other side of the SMA, we'll set it up so that you can adjust it for 2 bars, and play around with it. So, all right, so let's see here. Let me shrink that down a little bit. There. All right, so let's get Bloodhound open here. And so the white line is the SMA3 there. All right, so let's get Bloodhound open. And first thing we want to do is set up a file name. So all the work gets saved to the file. And yep, today is the 5th. And all right. There. All right, so we have a file name saved. Let's see. Let's see here. All right, so yeah, I guess good enough for a name. All right. So to first of all, the basic condition is identifying what side of the SMA or moving average is the bar closing on, right? So that is a comparison solver. We're comparing the closing price of the bar to the moving average. So let's grab a comparison solver. Connect that in. And let's give this a name. All right, look close to the SMA3. All right, so input A will be the closing price. So we need to change the type from indicator to price. And there we have the closing price, right, is the default selection there, so we're good. So now input B, we just need to change this SMA period here. So we'll open this up and just give it a moment for the first time it loads up. There we go. And so select it there, and then we can change the period, right? Change the parameters over here. All right, and that's all we had to do. So there we go. Identifying what side is the bar closing on of the moving average there. So we do have one bar here that did actually close above it. That's interesting. But so now we need to find 3 in a row. So to do that, let's go to our function nodes here, and we will use a look back node. So there's actually 2 ways to do this. We could use a signal counter, but that's a little overcomplicating it. The look back node's a lot easier to set up there. So there we go. Set that up. So now in the look back node here, so I have the look back node selected. We're going to turn the displacement off, so set that to 0. And then our look back period is 3, right? We want 3 bars, and we need 3 bars minimum. So there we go. And then I like to name this node, right? So it's a 3 bar min. There we go. And there we have it. So right, there's the first bar, second bar, and there's our third bar. And as long as bars keep closing, then we keep getting an output. Now, of course, here's that bar that we actually just barely had a close above the SMA. And so now we got to count 3 bars again. So there's 1 bar that closed below, 2nd bar, and 3rd bar, so on and so forth, right? Same thing here. Okay, there we have it. So next, let's see here. What am I going to do? So we're going to make the exit signals next here. I'm just wondering if I want to copy this, but no, actually I don't need to copy it. So what I am going to do is copy the logic template. So we're going to copy that. And make sure I select the result node here. And then rename this here. There. All right. Now, to adjust the actually, yeah, you know what? All right, I am going to change this. So, yeah, I'm going to change this here. So a little technical difference here. So I personally would like the exit signal to be a little cleaner, instead of having all of these exit signals here, right? I like it to be a little cleaner, but also I'm going to knock the look back period down to 1 there. Yeah, I like it to be a little cleaner here. So I'm actually going to get rid of that comparison and instead put a crossover solver in here. All right. All right, so there. So I adjusted the name on the look back here. So let's go back to the crossover. So we're going to check when the close crosses over the SMA3. All right, so this crossover is going to be set up exactly the same way that our comparison solver was. So input A is going to be price, closing price. Input B is going to be the SMA3. All right, adjust the period there. There we go. SMA3, there we have it. So, yeah, so that's a little cleaner looking exit signal, right? So there you go. There's that 1 bar where, right, we had a short signal here, and then that long signal is the exit for any short position, that has been entered or back here, right? And of course, this short signal would exit any long position, but of course we don't have any long trades back here. At least I don't think we do. Let's take a quick look here. Oh, we do. All right. Yeah, we had a long, but we had the short signal that would reverse it. So so there wouldn't be any short position to exit back there. Right. So this, short exit would exit any long position, but of course we were just in a short trade here. So this exit signal would do nothing there. But in any case, this is a little cleaner here, right? Now, if we wanted to say, all right, we need 2 bars closing on the other side, then the adjustment we need to do is a little bit more complex because we're using the crossover solver. So on the crossover solver, we need to set the look back period to 2, and then also the look back node, set that period to 2. And there we have it, right? So we got rid of that exit signal there on that bar. I'll just mark it there, right? And now here, instead of the exit signal being there, it's now on this bar. Okay. Let me mark it there. And I'll knock the look back period down to 2, or 1, sorry, down to 1, and see, oh yeah, actually, there. Yeah, that was our exit signal. And that would have been an exit signal, see, but both of those disappeared when, right, I'm on the look back node here. So if we adjust that up to 2, like so, right? So there, that exit's gone, that exit's gone, that first one is gone, but the second one shows up, right? Yeah. So again, depending on how many bars closing on the opposite side of the moving average, you would just adjust the look back period in the crossover solver and the look back period in the look back node. All right. So I'll knock that down to 1, go to the look back node, and knock that down to 1. There. All right. I'll just leave it at that. So, all right. And that's that. And it looks like my calculate mode is on price change. Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me, there we go. Set that back to on bars close. There. And all right, so one last thing to do here is we need to put that time limit on there. All right, so we'll restrict this. Yeah, there. And it's still, yeah. So Bloodhound will pop up and give you an update, or let you know that there's an update there, but I'm gonna skip it for now. All right, so let's go back to the entry signals there. All right, and move this back a little bit. And so now we will simply add a time session solver here. All right, I'll connect that in. And then we'll open up the session manager. There we go. And to get started, I'm going to just use the RTH to get started there. And then we can just drag these up like that. Drag the starting time up. And so there is 5 a.m. And the time zone is set to Eastern time. So there we have it. 5 a.m. Eastern. And of course, if you want to end it early, you can take the ending time and, drag it up, or you can double click on the green block, and you can go in there and, customize that ending time to whatever you want. So, all right, there we have it. And so let's go back. And there we go. So that's going to be 3 a.m. my time. There. So now we just need to combine these together. And so we'll grab a AND node, connect that in, connect that in. And there we have it. All right. So let's go back. Yep, there we go. No more signals overnight. Okay. Not until we get to the next day. There we go. All right, now I believe that completes the whole picture. Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a look at some of these other requirements here for Blackbird. Let's see where, let me find it here. Yeah, so here it is, number 5, right? So once the trade's closed out there, then reopen the trade, right? So that occurs because, right, the signals have not been cleaned up. So there's a signal, signal, signal. So Blackbird will open a trade, and if all the targets get hit, or maybe there's a long wick, right, and it hits your stop loss, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Once your trade is closed out, on the next bar, if there's a trade signal, if there's an entry signal on the next bar, Blackbird says, okay, I'll take that trade. So, right, Blackbird trades whatever signals you feed it there. So that's one. So the fact that we didn't clean this up means that Blackbird will keep trading there. Right. Now, if you only wanted it to take one trade, one short trade, and then one long trade, and then one short trade, that is when we would need a signal blocker. So let's go to the function nodes here, grab a signal blocker, connect that in there. And my guess, we probably need to block for at least 100 bars. And there we go. So we have a short, long, short, long, short, long, right? Alternating entry signals there, right? They've all been kind of cleaned up there, right? All alternating there. Here. And if you wanted to get even more sophisticated, so for example, let's see here, where is it? Let's see. Yeah, here we go. All right, so remember we had that exit signal there, right? Because we had to close just a fraction of a tick above. So if we look at our exit signals, right, there's that exit signal. So let's say that, and let's connect, there we go, let's connect up our signal blocker. All right, so we had a short signal here, and then we had an exit signal. So maybe that makes an exception so that after an exit signal, then it's okay to go short again. So what we could do is with the signal blocker, we would need to reset it, right? So it has a reset there. So we could reset it, which would allow another short signal through after this exit signal, right? So that means we would just need to take our crossover solver, right? Because this is what's generating, right? This is what's generating those exits. So we can connect this into that reset there. And there we have it. So there's our first short, but then we had an exit. And so then 3 bars later, right? 1, 2, 3. There's our short again. And yeah, it's a good thing I marked all these exit signals here. So we can see we had another exit signal. And then boom, 1, 2, 3, and another short. Right? So there you go. So you can mix and match that as you want. So, all right. Anyways, that's not a part of it. So I will just take that off the board and just pop it in there like that. There. All right, there we go. I think that covers all the bases there. And yep, so we have the exit signal in place. And so tomorrow tomorrow it's just a matter of popping those profit targets and stop losses into Blackbird. All right. All right, let me take a look, see if there's any follow-ups on this, and nope. All right, so nobody has any follow-up questions on this. I guess like I said, it is pretty straightforward and pretty simple there. So, all right, give me a moment here and I'm gonna get switched over to the next question. All right, for this next question, this is really a multi-part question, which is variations on generating signals using a trailing stop type of indicator here, right? So for this demo, right, it's going to be the ATR trailing stop specifically, but of course this would apply to the chandelier stop and the super trend stop as well, right? All from Lizard Trader, right? So these AMA indicators are all from Lizard Trader there. So I think everybody's familiar with them, but if you do have a Lizard Trader folder in your indicator list, right, they all start with AMA, right? In NinjaTrader 7, they were all ANA, A-N-A. So, yeah, all right, so cancel that. And so we did change the settings here. We sped it up a little bit. All right, so now let's go through all these different slight variations here of generating a signal here. So simply put, show a long signal whenever the indicator is in a bearish or a short trend, right? So yeah, whenever it's in a short trend there. All right, and of course these are the exit signals from the last question. So let's open this up, put up Bloodhound, and again, so let's add a new logic template here to get started with this new question. There we go. All right, so let's, so how are we going to generate, any kind of signal, based on the indicator? Well, the trend of the indicator is determined by what side the closing price of the bar's on, right? So here we had a wick, right? That didn't change the indicator, right? It only changes when the closing price. So right here we can see the closing price is now above the indicator, and so it flipped directions, right? So we're going to compare the closing price to the indicator plot, right? And that'll tell us whether it's in a bearish trend or a long trend or bullish trend. So let's grab a comparison solver. And I'll want to copy that indicator name there. Right, so we're comparing the closing price of the bar to, there we go. And shorten that up just a little bit. There we go. All right, so input A will be our closing price. So let's change the type to price, and the close is the default. And so now input B, we need to switch this over to the indicator. So, all right, so let's go into Lizard Indicator folder, and it is right there on the top. And again, remember, since we're using a faster one, change the settings here, right, within this Bloodhound window, like so. All right, and we'll just leave it on the stop dots there. Let's see, and yeah, I'm not changing anything else here. So, all right, call it good. And so there we have it, right? So comparing the close there. Now, this, now this specifically says when it is plotting bearish, right? So right here we had a close above, however, it's still plotting bearish, right? So it actually hasn't plot bullish yet. Let's see here. So let's see. So how do we address that? Yeah, I think the easiest way to address that is simply adjust our displacement here. Let's see. No. And yeah, there we go. All right. So now everything lines up. All right. So now we have a long output when the indicator is blue, and a short output, right? A short racing stripes when the indicator is red. Right. So the way I did that again is actually I displaced the price. So I displaced the bar prices there. So I set the look back to 2, right? So instead of looking at the current closing price, we're looking back, right? Because obviously we can't compare the current closing price to the indicator, because the indicator waits and it flips 1 bar later. So I just set that to 2, right? So, or another way to do it is I could leave it at 1, and then alternatively, I could grab a function node here. Where is it? There we go. Grab a look back node, and the displacement here function will shift all the signals forward. So there we go. So we have the same result here, right? So when the indicator is red, right, we get a short from Bloodhound, and when the indicator is blue, we get a long from Bloodhound. Right. So yeah, simply put, another way to put this is, because the indicator waits a bar before it flips directions, then we just need to take, Bloodhound's output and just shift it forward 1 bar, right? So delay, in other words, we're delaying Bloodhound's output by 1 bar, just like the indicator is delaying itself in flipping directions. There. All right, so this is number 1. All right. There, let's put number 1 on there like so. All right, next one here. Oh, sorry, and we didn't do actually the most important part here, which is we wanted to see a long output there, right? So actually, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll keep it this way. All right. So I was thinking to myself, I was going to need to make a different crossover or comparison solver for request 1, and then build a different one, a new comparison solver for requests 2 and 3. But actually, I can just take this one solver and just swap it. Right? That's all I had to do. Swap it. So there we go. So now when it's red, oh, that's connected up like that. There we go. So now when it's red, we have a long output. So there we go. So we're showing long when the ATR trailing stop is plotting bearish. So there we go. Now we're done with number 1 there. So all right, so just to make sure, so with the comparison solver, we're comparing the closing price of the bar to the ATR trailing stop plot line, right? Pretty straightforward. But then for this solver, I swapped it, right? So if I drag another one on here so I can answer request number 2, right? This second one is not swapped, right? You can see, if you zoom in there, right? You can see the little icon there that tells you that this node is swapped, but this node down here is not, right? So just to be clear, these modifier buttons are only apply to nodes that are on the logic board. So they don't apply to the nodes in the panel here on the list of all your solvers, right? If you click on this, you'll notice there is no button, right? You can't actually modify these, the parent, right? I guess you could call it the parent. You can't actually modify the parent node. You can only modify the node that's on a logic board there, right? So now we have the buttons, right? So this one, so I could invert this one, and then this one I could swap it. So, right, so you have a lot, that gives you a lot more flexibility by only modifying the nodes that are on the board. That way we only need one node here, one node doing all the work, and these are just, slightly modified. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the second question here. Yeah, so this one, so this is the default, um, what answer that we get here is, right, showing a long entry on the first, well, actually on the first price, yeah, crossing of the ATR trailing stop here. So actually, yeah, if we just want, yeah, so we just want the first signal there. So actually, instead of using this comparison solver, and we knock this down here, and now I'll just take it off. So actually, instead, I'm going to use a crossover. So crossover here is going to be a lot simpler. There. All right, so this is our crossover. So let's go set this up. All right, so input A, we need to change that to price. There's our closing price, and then input B. Go and change that to the ATR trailing. So there's our ATR trailing stop. And what were we doing? 3 and 1.3. All right, 3, 1.3. And there we have it. So we actually have the signal when the bar closes on the other side. So, right, as soon as possible there. So, and so, all right, yep. So again, this is only the first price crossing the indicator. There we go. All right, so this next one here is actually showing the long entry when the indicator switches from bearish to bullish or bullish to bearish, right? So essentially, we're just doing the same thing as question number one. We're delaying that by 1 bar. So I'll just copy this and paste a new one down here, like so. And I guess just for good measure, we'll mark this number 3, like so. Connect that in there. And let's rename this to number 3. Sorry, this number 2. Rename this to number 3. And there we have it. So there we just shifted the signal forward again, just like the indicator is waiting an extra bar before it flips directions. So again, still using the crossover solver, but just delaying it by 1 bar by using the displacement function here. Right? There. And I do like to, just like in the previous question, I'd like to name my look back nodes to tell me what they're doing. So we're just using the displacement function set to 1 bar. right? Displacement by 1 bar. So I just note that in the name there. There we go. All right, so there we have it. There's number 1, and there's question number 2 and question number 3. So, right. We could have, let's see here, we could have done the same thing. So number 3, we could have displaced our look back of the price, just like I showed earlier with the comparison solver. Remember, instead of using the look back node, I just changed the look back period. So we could do the same thing here if I connect it in, right? So this right now is number 2, seeing the signal when price closes, the first close, before the indicator flips directions there. And then if I go and adjust the look back period like so, and there we go. It essentially pushed the signal forward, right? Because what all this is simply doing is on this bar, it's using this closing price. Now, obviously, this closing price hasn't crossed the plot line yet. It hasn't crossed that plot line yet, right? But now when we get to this bar, that closing price definitely is above or crossed that plot line. So we could do it there, but just so that we could see all 3 questions in action, I'll leave it like that. So, there. All right, that takes care of that question. So let me see if there's any follow-ups on this here. Let's see here. All right, so it looks like Doug might have caught a technical thing here. All right, so for number 2, at 9:20, the bar did not close above. All right, let's see. At 9:20. All right. All right, good catch. Yeah, so we got that. So let's see what's happening here. All right, so I'm just double checking the indicator settings. Yeah, 3 and 1.3. And all right, so let's do a reload here. Maybe we just need a reload. There we go. Yep, just needed a reload. That fixed it. There. All right, here we go. Close above, close below, close above, close below. And there you go. Let's make those dots a little bit bigger. There we go. A little bit easier to see. All right. There we go. Close above. And whoa. And close below. Close above. Close below. Yep, there we go. So yeah, just keep in mind that sometimes when you're, constantly changing your connections up, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that sometimes the system can't quite keep up. And so as you're flipping, flipping around from connecting things to the result node to look at different things, that at some point you might need to just do a hard reset there and just make sure everything's recalculated there. So, yeah. All right, let's see here. It looks like we have some more other comments. And yep, reload got me again. Yep. So, um, yeah, it seems like, this is just what, a loose observation, but yeah, it seems like with, the later versions of NinjaTrader, going back probably at least a year, maybe with NinjaTrader 1.5, 8.1.5, that, Bloodhound has needed more reloads there than it used to back in the early days of NinjaTrader 8. So have no idea why. That could be, that observation could be what proof of nothing, but yeah, just an observation. Okay, so let's see here. I need and well, all right, guys. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. But for now, I've been having this weird issue, and I think it's the new VMware that's causing it. But um, yeah, I'm having this weird issue where I can't click on anything with my mouse. So yeah, so hold on, guys, while I try and figure out how to get my mouse clicking abilities back in my host machine here. So yeah, interesting. It works fine in the VMware here, but it does not work in the host machine. Really strange. Yeah, so just a moment here. I got it back. Okay, so I'm just clean up the Q&A window here. Yeah, Doug's asking if I would save the template. Yep, these templates are always saved. There. Every single template is saved. And they are supposed to be uploaded here to the template files here. So let's open that up in another tab. Yeah. So this is the downloads page for all of the Bloodhound and Blackbird template files there. So there you go. There's the Bloodhound ones. There's the Blackbird ones, right? So, and the chart templates as well from these Bloodhound workshops. So, and even the NinjaTrader 7 files back there. Yeah. So if you don't, excuse me, if you don't see a Bloodhound file or the chart template, then all you need to do is just email support and ask for a copy of the Bloodhound file that you're looking for there. Just email support and then they'll get that to you. Well, all right. Well, I'm ready for the next question to come in here, gentlemen. And all right, yeah, it looks like Ian might have a follow-up here on his SMA question. So Ian, I'm not quite sure um, what the actual precise condition is here. So you're asking enter if price on the next on the next bar. Oh, if price got to X ticks on to the SMA. Yeah, if you could kind of clean that up for me. Enter if it retraces to the SMA. Okay. So yeah, let me think about that for a moment. Oh, and actually, let me finish. I should set up a name here for this. There we go. Well, sometimes you don't actually have a retrace there. So how would you deal with that? Where in this situation, it actually opens below the moving average. Yeah. All right, let me let's get Bloodhound open here. And so this is going to change the system a little bit here. Um, all right, let's make a little note here. All right, so this is on bar close system. So, all right, so I'm going to make a copy of this. There we go. All right, so this system, the calculate mode is going to have to be set to on price change. Actually, no. You know what? No. Um, Blackbird can handle that. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm overthinking it here. So yeah, so Blackbird can handle that. Um, so instead of entering on a market entry, so right, so we got one close above, two close above, three, right, close above. Is that right? Um, oh no, that's the close below. Okay, sorry. So this is the close above, close above. There you go, close above. So instead of entering on a market, you could enter on a limit order. So you could just place a limit order on the SMA. Yeah. So there you go. Um, but of course, this again, this example here, yeah, on this example, the bar opened below the SMA. So, well, let's see. Actually, sorry. The Yeah, so this bar closes, and let's see if we actually have something live here. Yeah, there we go. So we'll ignore this first signal here. Just ignore this. Pretend like this was the first one here, short, right? So there we go. The bar closes, and we could place a limit order at that SMA, right? Because that's where the SMA was when this bar opened, right? We don't have an SMA on this bar. So if this was a short signal as well, then yeah, we could place a limit order on the SMA there instead of doing a market entry. So yeah, so we don't actually need to build a totally different system for on price change. Yeah, so let's just undo that. There. There. All right, let me go back to the Q&A window. Yeah, all right. So I was thinking about getting explaining that next point here. Yeah, so Ian is saying, So if there is no retrace and price doesn't pick up the entry order at the SMA, then try again next bar. Yeah, so you can just set up a trailing entry order so that entry order just follows the SMA, until it gets filled. Or if an exit signal occurs, then that exit signal will cancel. Well, actually, an exit signal is not going to occur until after the order's been filled, obviously. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so like right here, we have a buy. Actually, wrong one. Let's go to the right one. Yeah, so here we go. So that's the entry, and this is the exit, right? So we do have an, and what is going on? Yeah, this new VMware is kind of funny here. Kept pushing my mouse back. There we go. So there's our exit there, the exit signal. So let's go back to the entry signal, right? So there's our entry signals, So if, for example, well, it did get filled here with all these wicks. We can see it did get filled, but, we'll just pretend it didn't get filled there. So we have an exit here, but obviously as price has to move across the SMA to generate an exit signal, which means you'll always get filled just before a potential exit signal. So, yeah. Yep. So there we go. So, yeah. So yeah, there's no specific settings here for the entry order. So I always just put it as a market entry if nobody specifies, right? So, but yeah, you can set it as a market or set it as a limit entry, on the SMA3 there. So, yeah. All right. Well, that was pretty simple and straightforward. All right, well, gentlemen, I am out of questions again, so I'm just waiting for the next round of questions to come in. Well, and I guess let me see who's in the room here. Well, all right, yep. I recognize all the names in the room, at least I think so. Um, let's see. Well, what time is it? Geez, we're just a little past the 1 hour mark. It's still early for the Bloodhound Workshop. So, again, gentlemen, I'm just waiting for the next question to come in here. And I guess I'll start the timer. I'll hang around until about 20 minutes after the hour. All right, so about 7 minutes or so. And if I don't see any more Bloodhound questions by 20 minutes after the hour, then I'll assume we are done for the day. So, yeah, you bet, Ian. You're welcome. So for both, let's see, who was it? Ian and Doug. If you want a copy of today's Bloodhound file, you guys should know the drill by now. Just email support, and then Mike will email you a link back uh, for that. So, right. All right. Well, while I'm waiting for the next Bloodhound question to come in here, guys, I'm just gonna mute my microphone here. So, all right, just a reminder, a couple more minutes to get the next round of Bloodhound questions in here, or otherwise, I'll wrap it up for the day. All right, Doug has a silly question. Good. I like to have some fun once in a while. Let's see what you have here. Um, all right. Um, yeah, all right. So, Doug, is you probably, as you've alluded to, that you think you know the question here. So it all comes down to the timing, right? So if your tick chart um, is, if your tick chart is, generally speaking, if your tick chart is faster than your minute chart, then you have to wait for the minute chart to close before you'll see the signals from the tick chart. Now, if the tick chart is slower on average than the minute chart, then again, you have to wait for the minute chart to close before you see the signals from the tick chart. But also, depending on how slow your tick chart is, one signal from the tick chart, right? A signal from a single bar on a tick chart, if it's slow enough, might show two signals on a 1 minute bar, right? So it's really just the mechanics of the timing of things. So it's nothing specific to Bloodhound, or anything of that. Yeah, it's just a mechanical nature of, the two different times. What bars on the tick chart overlap with what bars on the minute chart. That's what it comes down to. So it is possible, but just keep in mind that those signals are going to be delayed until the 1 minute chart closes. Now, alternatively, you could change the calculate mode of Bloodhound, right? So just like all indicators, you can go into the setup and you can get signals based on just price movement, right? So you can get signals in real time, but then, it seems like that kind of defeats the purpose. Why not just let Bloodhound run on the tick chart off to the side, right? And use the calculate mode that you want to use, which is probably on bar close, right? And of course, if your system needs to wait for the bar to close, right? So you don't get those fake out signals, during some long wick, right? And then price drops right back down, the signal goes away. So, right? So if you want to, well, no, never mind. Yeah, never mind. So I was getting myself confused there. Yeah, so if, I guess, oh, no, never mind. Yeah, I'll get this straight in my head here. So many moving parts when you're dealing with multiple time frames and multiple calculations there. All right, yeah, so one solution is when you bring your tick chart system and you so you set up Bloodhound so that it's running on that tick chart, but you want to see those signals as soon as possible on the minute chart. Well, Bloodhound needs to have the calculate set to on price change on the minute chart, right? So, right, I'm running on a minute chart. So here we go. We have Bloodhound with the calculate, right? The calculate is set to on price change right there, OPC, on price change, right? And so what that would do is, right, so in Bloodhound, right, we need to add that tick time frame there. There you go. I'll just say 1500 tick chart. There we go. Right, and of course, yeah. So you'd move all your solvers, right, for that tick chart system. Move them onto the tick chart down here. And again, remember your calculate is set to on price change. So the solution to waiting, shoot, no. Yeah, this wouldn't actually work. So never mind. Yeah. So the solution I was going to give you, which doesn't work, is, um, and so this is a solution for waiting for a bar to close when Bloodhound calculate is on price change, right? Uh, and right, so if Bloodhound has to run with on price change or on each tick, but you want to wait for the bar to close, then that workaround, and there is a video out there, that workaround is just simply use the look back node with this displacement of 1, right? That displacement of 1, remember, it takes the signal from the previous bar and shifts it forward. So in effect, it's waiting for this bar to close. Let's see. Yeah. So that displacement, it has a secondary effect, is it waits for this bar to close, and then that if there is a signal on this bar, when it closes, it shows up on the new bar, that just opens, right? But anyways, the problem is this look back, actually all the function nodes, um, they are updating, the function nodes are updating based on the default time frame. So yeah, so this displacement, even though it's, you might have a bunch of nodes calculating on the tick chart, the look back waits for the 1 minute chart to close. So function nodes don't operate on the secondary time frames, right? Function nodes always operate on the default time frame there. So, yeah, so that is why this look back node doesn't work, because it's waiting for the 1 minute bar to close. It's not waiting for the tick bar to close. So, all right, so we're still back to square one, which is, yeah, there is no answer, solution for that. No, at least not with Bloodhound. Yeah, of course, you could code up your own custom indicator, that deals with all those multiple time frames, but yeah, that in itself is actually pretty tricky to do. Yeah. So yeah. So bottom line is, yeah, that you can do it, but there are um, um, what detriments. Yeah, there are detriments, which is the waiting time, waiting for that 1 minute chart to close, before you see signals from the tick chart. The default time frame can't be changed. The default time frame is always the chart, right? The chart is always the default time frame. So if you change the default time frame, from minute to tick, well, then you're running on a tick chart. So so therefore you're running the tick chart system on the tick chart. And the 1 minute chart doesn't. The 1 minute time frame, so the 1 minute would be a secondary time frame. And so what is it actually doing? I don't see what the point of that 1 minute chart, what would it actually be doing? So Blackbird so the question is, yeah, would Blackbird be trading on the 1 minute on the minute chart? Blackbird is trading on whatever the chart is set to. Yeah, Blackbird is not multi-time frame. That just overcomplicates things unnecessarily. So yeah, so whatever chart you're running Blackbird on, Blackbird's always running on the default time frame. Yeah. So yeah, so if you change this to change your chart to a tick chart, Blackbird's running on the tick chart, not the minute chart. Yeah. So Bloodhound, so just to be clear, Bloodhound cannot change the time frame that Blackbird is running on. Right? So if you're adding Blackbird to a 1 minute chart, Blackbird is running on a 1 minute chart, right? It should be pretty apparent. If you put Blackbird on a tick chart, Blackbird's trading on a tick chart there. And so if your signals, so let's say Blackbird's running on this 1 minute chart, and you set up Bloodhound. So basically we're back to where we were with the first question, right? So if you add a secondary tick time frame here and move all your solvers to that tick based secondary time frame, again, same thing. Since Blackbird is running on a minute chart, Blackbird will not see the Bloodhound signals until the 1 minute chart, the bar closes on the 1 minute chart. And then your tick signals will show up for Blackbird, right? So it's the same thing with Bloodhound. So there's no way to cheat the system, so to speak. So, yeah. Yeah. When you get to that level of granularity, mixing up time frames, so that you can see some condition from a tick chart on a minute chart, yeah, still the only way to really do that is through custom coding. So, yeah. Now, I guess the one thing I didn't mention is, um, I guess I made an assumption here. I made an assumption that you needed to wait for the 1 minute bar to close. So so if you really just want to get um, the raw signals from the tick chart, but you just want to see them on a minute chart as soon as possible. No, basically chasing down the same problem, yeah, that I revealed before. Mm, no, yeah, there is no solution for that. So, yeah, the solution would have to be allowing function nodes to show up on secondary timeframes there. And of course that would anything's possible with enough time, but that would require Bloodhound to really be go through a significant redesign on the back end code. Yeah, because if we're going to do function nodes, well, we might as well do and nodes as well. Allow all nodes to be set on a specific time frame, and therefore they only update on that time frame. So and that would require a pretty significant change to the back end of Bloodhound to do that. So yeah, I'm not saying it won't, but don't hold your breath. So yeah. And then of course the next issue is people would be mixing and matching function nodes and nodes on different time frames and wondering why they don't get a signal anymore. It's because they just made a whole mess of it. So, and also allowing function nodes and nodes on a specific time frame also increases the chances that people are just going to make mistakes and build a system that would never generate a signal. Yeah, because you get too many different time frames, waiting on each other, to synchronize, and they never do synchronize, and therefore you never get a signal out. So, all right. Well, with another Bloodhound question answered, I will reset the timer here, and I'll give everybody about 5 minutes. So we're at the 1.5 hour mark now. So not too shabby for a Bloodhound workshop. Yeah. All right. So again, I'll set the timer to 5 minutes, and if I don't see any more questions in the next 5 minutes, then we'll wrap it up. But if you guys think of some more questions for me, keep them coming, and we'll keep the workshop open until I get all the questions answered. All right, gentlemen, it's been quite a bit more than 5 minutes, and I haven't seen any more questions, so I think we must be done for today. All right, so let's see here, just to wrap it up. So we do have a question from today that we will finish up in tomorrow's Blackbird, so we have something to get us started for tomorrow there. All right, and of course, if anybody else has any other Blackbird questions, you're free to email that in to support now, or of course, show up tomorrow and I'll see you tomorrow and ask your question tomorrow in the Blackbird workshop. So, all right, with that, let's see here. Looks like we got something in the Q&A window. Yeah, you're welcome, Doug. Absolutely. That's exactly what these workshops are for, to get those kind of questions answered. So yeah, Charles is asking what's the email to request recordings. Everything goes to support. So yeah, support is the one-stop shop email for everything. So actually, I think the other emails, like I think sales, we do have a sales at, and I think that goes into support as well. So, but yeah, just send everything to support there. So, all right, everybody can see support. So that's the best place for everything. So, all right, great. Then with that, gentlemen, if I don't see you tomorrow, then have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time.